Welcome into the Toyota Lounge for the DNVR Avalanche podcast, powered by your Front Range Toyota dealerships. It is the draft recap show for the Colorado Avalanche, maybe a little bit of development camp chat too, and if we're lucky, something might happen with free agents during the show. Probably not on that last one, but we might get lucky. We got all four of us here today to talk about the draft that was for the Colorado Avalanche. The Avs selected 9 players in the 2024 NHL draft, including 3 goaltenders, 5 forwards, and 1 defenseman. Let me get your guys' initial thoughts. Feelings on the Avs draft as a whole. Like it, don't like it, interesting, boring. What do you guys think?
Mumbai.
Okay. Sure. I just published a piece on this like an hour and a half ago. Having slept on it, not much, thanks Frontier, but having slept on it a little bit, I think it's kind of, I think I woke up today feeling a little more encouraged about it than I was immediately after. The draft, I think, is so interesting because it's like where you dream on guys as NHL players, right? Like it's like the avenue of looking at a teenager and going, I project great things for you, young man. And instead of the Avs just going out and being like, well, we're going to try and take as many of these really high upside guys as we could possibly find, they kind of switched up the philosophy, ignoring all the goalies for the moment, but they kind of switched it up and they drafted like a mixture. Some role players with differing skill sets instead of just going back to the well of the same old crap that they've done for 10 plus years under multiple scouting directors. And that to me, I think is what gives me the most encouragement of this. There are some guys I like, there are some guys that I'm not super fond of, and there's 2 guys that I know absolutely nothing about. And it doesn't seem like most people on the internet also know much about them. It was going through it this morning. I think I feel maybe a little bit better, and I understand why all the outlets that grade these things are like giving it a C minus, somewhere in there, because there's not a lot of upside in it.
Yep.
Their highest pick is Ilya Nabokov, and he at the moment is like, if it all works out great, he's a platoon guy. He's going to split starts. He's not ever going to be a frontline guy. And I think that's kind of a hard thing to swallow when you're like, all right, we took the first goalie in the draft. He's 38th overall and blah, 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 blah. And he might play 40 games a year for us someday.
I'm still a little mixed on it. Part of it is the concern around their capabilities developing the goaltender position. And it's something that I want to know more about this upcoming week, and getting to talk to more of the development staff and getting a clear idea of what the plan is, who they're going to lean on to work with a lot of these young goaltenders. And of course, none of them are necessarily coming over and working with the Colorado Eagles anytime soon. So they're going to go to their respective teams and start their development path there. But eventually they're going to be in the care of the Avs organization. And that's where I'm curious where that confidence that they can help foster 3 goaltenders in the pipeline is coming from. And I don't want that to sound critical. It's a genuine question, because that confidence must come from somewhere. And I don't doubt that it's founded. And that's what a big goal of mine is going into this week, is to try to understand what that process looks like moving forward. Who are the people that they're leaning on? Obviously, the news of Pavel Francouz being brought into the fold in some capacity is a really big piece of news, but it's also uncharted waters. And I'm excited to see then what that means for the future of the goaltenders from this draft specifically. But the rest of it, I think AJ makes a great point. There's a little bit of variety in the type of player they're getting. I'm really high on Tory Pitner. I know he's the DU kid and a defenseman, and those things are naturally things that I already appreciate. But the more that I see from people who are familiar with him in juniors, the more I get excited about what a smart hockey player they got. I think that, Chris McFarland and company has been working on this draft very hard. And even though the director of amateur scouting moved on, I think there were a lot of people behind the scenes working hard to prepare them for this draft. So I don't doubt that a lot of homework and research went into it. And I think that's how you get a player like Pitner at the 185th pick. It was just a really big draft, too. They took so many players. It's a lot to get your hands around.
Yep.
So I think that's why, also accounting for that, we didn't really sleep very much. I still need a little bit of time to process the draft, but I'm ultimately pretty positive about it.
I liked it. I do, because it was. It's so different than teams that are at the top of the draft. You know what I mean? Like, we talked about the expression. Remember a couple weeks ago? You want your table to be all the way in the corner, right? That means that you won the cup or you lost in the finals, and you don't want to be picking early. You know what I mean? If you're picking early, things went south, or you're freaking genius and you make a heck of a trade to get those early picks. And the Avs, we all know, obviously they got depleted the last few years, and it's not just the Avs, it's every team that wins or wants to win or in that window to win, and you're going to lose some capital. And as far as Klippenstein gone, like we talked about, it's all good. It was all mutual. It's moving on. It wasn't working out great. Awesome. They had a plan in place, and it's not like what's his name was running the draft. I'm having a blank right now for a second. Shoot.
Harris?
What's that?
Harris?
Yeah. You know what I mean? And that was the plan for the last few months. It's not like it was done like that morning, like, raise your hand who wants to run the draft.
Those are,
I mean, there was a plan in place. Chris is a
We
smart
don't know
guy.
that they didn't do that.
Andrew Cogliano actually ran the draft.
Collins, you're good. Come and sit.
You retired? All right, got a job for you.
There was a plan, and and it's such important. It's so important. It's the blood to your veins, right? To your organization, and we all know they needed to stock up again, and this is the typical draft that they stocked up on. Compare that to the San Jose or whoever. You know what I mean? They have guys that Macklin can play there in a few months, and the Avs, that wasn't the case. It's not what they stocked up on. They stocked up on future, and they stocked up on. We'll have this conversation 4 or 5 years from now and say, hey, let's look back at the 2024 draft to really see how it went. And Zellers, like, he's the earliest forward they got, right? Because Nabokov's a goalie. So, again, he's going, where's he going next year? He's not going in the NHL. He's not even going to go to college. He's going USHL, right? So there's steps that they need to take, and as part of the development. So it's not a sexy draft. Like, oh, my God, did you see Montreal and did you see San Jose? Well, yeah, no shit. They had the early picks, and, so, of course, those are sexy. The Avs are... We'll see in 4 or 5 years. Now, I like what they did. And I remember having a conversation with, was it Biller or whoever? But it's, at some point, you got to stop giving up draft capital to go get, Kemper, Georgie. All of a sudden, you got to develop your own at some point, right? You know what I mean? And we all know Eustace is, again, it's exactly what I'm trying to say. Eustace was drafted when?
Third
5?
round.
When?
Third round.
Yeah.
No, like 5 years ago now?
Oh,
Or
yeah,
like-
yeah.
So goalies are 5 to 7 years away. Eustace is what now? 15 career games played? Like, whoa. And I love Eustace. I'm not bashing him. Goalies take time. So obviously, they had a meeting. They had a plan. Their pick at 24 is very simple. They had a pocket of 3-4 guys. Call it what you want. When that went south, meaning that there are 3-4 guys that were comfortable at taking it at 24, were gone. They went to their other plan, which is, okay, let's move back now, and now we're going to concentrate on some goalies. And whether, again, it's not sexy because they're freaking years away. And then who knows how good they're going to be, right? Now the work starts. You mentioned Pavel Francis. You mentioned, like, there's a lot of work, a lot of nurturing to be done with goalies and wherever they're going to play. Obviously a couple of Europeans, and we all know that it didn't work out the last couple of times, like goalie. I mean, Eustace, yes, and then a couple kind of slipped through the cracks, and now it's time to really focus, and teams are doing it. Like freaking Florida Panthers won the cup. Like they have a goalie department with Francois Allaire and Roberto Luongo, and goalie coaches on the ice, and it's an important position. And I think that was part of their plan as well, and it fell to that. I think they accomplished their plan right there on that. It's a start, To be able to develop your own goalies, you got to draft them. They sure drafted 3, but I know it's boring. And I'm looking at Rudo and I'm texting him yesterday. I'm like, oh my God, another one! Laugh out loud, right? I mean, because it's. But at the end of the day, sometimes you don't like the direction of what teams are doing, but there was a direction. You see what I'm saying? So it better have a direction than have none. And it sounded to me like the Avs were well prepared for this draft. They had planned, they followed it, and I think years from now you'll be able to look back at it and say it was great or it didn't work out. I mean, who knows? I don't know. We all don't know here.
Of course, nobody actually knows.
Exactly.
Not even the Avs know how these prospects are going to develop, even if they have their own ideas. Personally, I did not like the draft very much at all, and that is not to say that I didn't like the players. I think there are some players that are pretty darn interesting that the Avs took in this draft, but conceptually how they approached it, I get it. The reserve list was super thin. They looked to add picks and add a bunch of guys to that roster. But the Avs moved away from potential premium draft position to go out and draft guys that even after they traded down, it still felt like it was a reach for some of the guys that they were taking. And as far as a draft strategy is concerned, I feel a little bit lacking that the Avs didn't come away from this draft with a true premium player. We're talking about Nabokov. Don't get me wrong. I think certainly after sleeping on it for a couple days, I think Nabokov is a pretty darn interesting prospect for the Avs, but it's not anywhere near as interesting as some of the other guys at the top of this list, or what was the draft list at the time that they could have taken at 24, and some of them were even there at 38. And it makes me wonder about that approach for the Avs. Look, I get it. They didn't swing on some of that high-end talent that they maybe could have, and that's their approach. They decided to change things up in that way. Okay, fine. I just don't know that I really love that. Strictly looking at the numbers, when you look at trying to fill out your prospect pool with a bunch of guys instead of a couple of high-end ones, you almost always add it up, and your odds of getting a quality NHLer are going to come more aggressively from those higher-end picks rather than a handful of mid-round or lower round or whatever you want to call it. So it felt a little bit lacking to me, the approach that Colorado took. Again, this is not about the players they took at all. We'll get into all of them in a minute.
I agree.
Just their general strategy for this draft was not my favorite.
I'll add to this, like Tiff, you can rewind the tape like 4 minutes, right? I'm old, the VHS tape, rewinding. I even looked at you when I said that, right? I said, you might not have liked the approach the Avs took, right? And again, that's for us to discuss. That's why we're here, right? I'm saying I didn't mind it. You're saying you liked it. That doesn't mean I'm right, and that doesn't mean you're right. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. Doesn't mean you're wrong. But what I liked, and that's what I meant by it, is that they had a plan, and they might not have taken the popular plan. You know what I mean? They took the plan that it was clearly about restocking the pipes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it had to. Between the pipes, and then, but I agree what you're saying. I'm not arguing you at all. You know what I mean? I understand, and that's why you see some of those ratings. You know what I mean? Of people saying, "Oh, it's a C+ draft" or whatever it is, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't know if I'm making my point. You know, the way I was trying to say it. But that they obviously had a plan. They dropped down to their other part of their plan, and kudos to them because they had a direction. It might not be the one you like. You know what I mean?
They certainly weren't doing it blind. I'll put it to you that way.
Oh, I don't kid. Some teams do.
Anyway, on that note, before we get into the players, we are brought to you by Toyota. You can go get yourself one. Honestly, wishing we rented a Toyota and drove home instead of the way we ended up getting home last night. It would have been better than flying if it were up to us. Toyota, tons of different vehicles that fit anything you need. Whether you're trying to sit all of us for a road trip, you can get something like the 4Runner or the RAV4. You can get yourself a truck if you're hauling stuff like the Tundra or the Tacoma. you can get yourself pretty much any vehicle under the sun. Toyota has tons of options, including 17 different vehicles with all-wheel or four-wheel drive, so you can get yourself off-roading if that's your thing, or if you just like a car that doesn't slip on the ice, also an option. And 16 different vehicles that are hybrid, so if you want to get in on some better mileage and all the good stuff that a hybrid car offers you, Toyota has you covered on that front, too. You can visit your Front Range Toyota dealerships at a location near you, including AutoNation Toyota in Arapahoe and Centennial, Corbin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood to get yourself in the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche and the official vehicle of DNVR. And once you've got yourself into a Toyota, you can also make sure you go out to Vegas, maybe road trip it, don't fly, once again. And get yourself to Circa Resorts and Casinos. We had a great time out there. If you watched the first day of our draft show, you saw us broadcasting from Circa on top of Stadium Swim, which you can go check out. They also have tons of other amazing stuff, including crazy Baja Blast drinks that are delicious. Of course, their 7,000 square foot casino, a 3-story sports book. All sorts of other amazing amenities when it comes to Circa Resorts and Casinos. So if you are heading out to Vegas, make sure you're booking your stay with Circa for a fantastic time. Go over to circasports.com and use code DNVR20 to get 20% off your experience with Circa. They have over 500 different rooms with varieties of layouts and whatever you might need, including art from local artists. They also have the Legacy Club, which is way too fancy for us here at DNVR, but you know, if that's your type of thing, it's an awesome little venue at the top of their building that's got incredible views and all sorts of stuff. So experience Stadium Swim and watch your favorite teams at Circa Resort and Casino. And be sure to get that 20% off your stay with code DNVR20 at circasports.com. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Let's get into some of the actual prospects taken for the Avs in this draft, starting with their first pick, Ilya Nabokov, a goalie in the second round, a guy who had a super strong year over in the KHL, particularly their playoff run was fantastic from him. AJ, you kind of mentioned it before, ceiling, maybe not a starter at the NHL level, but for a goaltender, also maybe a guy with a bit of a quicker path.
Yeah, you'd have to hope it's a quicker path. It's his 4th time through the draft.
Yeah.
Drafting a guy that's 21 years old, like, oh, he's 21, he's not that old. It's draft day.
On draft day, he's pretty old.
Yeah, that's an old-ass dude.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, that's a straight-up old man in terms of a draft. So that is a little bit different for, you know, when you look at like a Yunin, where he played 6 games last year in the MHL.
Yep.
He's a total wild
Who
card.
knows
We have
what that
absolutely no
timeline
idea.
is,
We have
yeah.
no idea. What you should like about Nabokov is that in the KHL, he was exceptional.
Yep.
Especially in the postseason where he won their MVP and backstopped his team to a championship. Like, that's an on-ice result that you could just point to and say, guy's pretty good. Mm-hmm. So that's... I think that has to be the most encouraging part of this, is that, especially with goaltenders, you have no idea what they're going to look like in 5 years. More changes with the goaltender over a 5-year period than with any other position. Those guys, everything about their game is going to be different. And if it's not, they're not going to play very long. And with Nabokov, it's the guy is... He was so good at the end of the year. I don't love the fact that he's 6'1". It's just small for a goaltender.
It is.
You know, Georgiev is small for a goaltender. It's the same size.
Francouz, small for a goaltender.
Yeah,
True.
exactly.
Which one?
Francouz.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we talk about Devin Levi and Dustin Wolf and UC Saros. It's great that there are some of these guys, but how many of them... we're talking about 5 guys. You know, like,
Yeah. There's
just
not a lot of them, for sure.
It's just it's small for the position, and when we talk about forwards that score a lot of goals, like a Max Swanson who goes in the 7th round, it's 5'8". That means that everything else about his game has to be excellent just to overcome that.
Yep.
And the same is true for a goaltender. Everything else about the game has to go up a level.
It's true.
It was interesting that the conversation around goalies in this draft was so tepid. And then on draft day,
Like 20 of
yesterday,
them go. Yeah.
teams just start hammering the position in rounds 2 and 3.
Yep.
So clearly they felt some kind of way about it. And I when it comes to Nabokov in particular, there's a lot to like. And I think that the frustration over the pick is more about who they left sitting there than about the player himself.
Agree.
But you have to like that the goaltender, we talk about goaltender like it's on the moon, but it's not that different from any other position. You draft one highly, you're probably getting the most talented guy at that position. You're just trying to figure it out from there.
Yep.
And they have not invested very many high picks ever in that position. The couple of times they've done it, they've done well.
Sure.
I mean, Mark Denis was a long-time starter. Peter Budaj and Calvin Pickard and Justus Annunen.
There's some good ones. There's also the Spencer Martins in there.
Yeah, Spencer Martin, and then there Trevor Cann, who was a gigantic bust.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there's hit and miss.
It's a draft.
Of course, but you're not giving yourself a very good opportunity to develop a legit starter unless you start investing some capital in the position. They definitely did that, and to me, I think it's hard to argue with. All right, we think that the guy that just was the playoff MVP in the freaking KHL as a 20-year-old is the direction that we want to go in over trying to draft a guy that we hope could someday have a season as good as that at any level.
Yeah.
Well, and thinking of it in terms of that's the pick at 38 instead of 24 does make it feel a little bit different. I think AJ's point about the buzz around goaltenders in this draft is an interesting one because it made me feel like, to Eric's point about how the Avs had a direction for this draft, it did feel like in school when you would put up folders when you were taking a test so you wouldn't worry about what anyone else was doing and they couldn't look off your paper. It did feel like the Avs were only worried about the test that they were taking and not what the rest of the league was going to be doing in this draft and their approach to it.
Yep.
And that's why I think it was a little bit ballsy for them to take a swing for the goaltender and be the first team to do it. And I think what's interesting about Nabokov is the Justus Annunen comparable. Like, Annunen's 24 now with 3 full seasons in the AHL. That puts him about 21 is he's making that leap to North American ice. That is very similar to the path that Nabokov could be on. Like, one more year in the KHL, he comes over and he is starting on a very similar track as Justus Annunen, who we consider a very young goaltender. So this is maybe an older draft pick, but on the goalie timeline, I think that it's very appropriate. He's still very young in his trajectory.
Sure.
And what he's doing in a pro league among men is impressive because he, playoff MVP, league rookie in his first full year in the KHL is impressive and challenging to do. And I think that it was just an interesting strategy. It goes back to then the question of, all right, well, once he does come over to North America, what are the Avs going to do with him?
Yeah.
And that's where I still have some questions, but the thought process behind it does make a lot of sense. And I'm kind of excited to see if this kind of ballsy move pays off for them.
Well, go back. Call it at 24, the 3 guys, okay? The pocket of 3 guys. Like we talked about. Clearly, those guys were gone. So now they're like, let's go to our plan. I'm not going to say plan B. Let's go to our other plan that doesn't include one of our guys that we like, which is what? Drop back. They knew exactly who their partner was going to be, and we didn't know why they were. We're like, they're accumulating second-round picks or whatever it is, right? And that was the reason. We're going to stock up on goaltenders, right? Because we're going to go, I don't want to use the word waste, but we're going to waste our picks on goalies, meaning we're gonna try to attack one. Now, when I go to Nabokov, like I say it all the time, I'll say it again. For me, the draft should be old. I mean, you got to be old. You should push it back to 19 or 20. I freaking hate kids. It's not their fault. kids develop at different ages, and clearly Nabokov is probably a late bloomer. You know what I mean, so to speak. So, and I agree with you. Yeah, you're old. You're ancient. You know what I mean? At that for today's draft. But I always say, you got to age, and this is a position, especially goaltending, defensemen, and then forwards. It takes the longest to develop. And I can name you guys, and I don't know why this name's popping in my head, but Montreal Canadiens, Zach Fucale, right? Second rounder, first rounder a few years back, and never really played in the NHL. You know what I mean? And then you look back, there was a lot of goaltenders past him that had careers in the NHL, or that weren't even drafted, that have had careers and are still playing in the NHL. So I hate the draft being so young, because what it does, and it's a fair question mark, a fair red flag. Oh, why is he 21 and he's been passed through? You know what I mean? It's not yours, it's everybody. You know what I mean? Like, how come no one picked him? Well, there's so many places. It's a worldwide sport now. I mean, it's from everywhere. Now, Nabokov, here's what I'm going to tell you, and I'm not going to say who because it's not fair, but watching the draft yesterday, at that pick, I was with non-amateur as guys, because they're all around. Obviously, they're at the table, or C-Mac or those guys. But as soon as the pick was made, bing, the text to the guy next to me was from a very freaking high-end goalie guru around the league. That's not fair for me to say. What a freaking pick. And you can tell, it's like, you bastards. You know what I mean? You guys took our guy. We were, so you can look at who's coming up after, and then you can figure out who it is. But I won't say it. But so it's a highly touted guy. You know what I mean? And like I said, I like the fact that they had a direction. You know what I mean? And it's not the goalie dad talking. And me, I don't care 6'1". I got to be honest with you. Like I'm over the arguments of the 6'6" guy. And you're right. You're right, but you know why a goalie plays at 6 feet or 6'1" in the NHL? Because they are much better than the guy at 6'6" at what they do, right? Because what they're lacking is that size thing. Usually the size guy, he's just better because he has size. He's not better at all the other parts of the game. So Nabokov, for me, and I saw some clips there, I like it. You know what I mean? We're going to get our KHL correspondent for sure to talk about him, Bob, our good old friend Bob, because he'll be very familiar with them, and so I'm sure we'll be able to follow along. What the plan's going to be, and you make a pick like that, you drop down to Megan's point from 24 to 38. Damn straight, like they're going to freaking have a plan to develop him, and you can't just pick a guy and then you hope that things go well, right? It's a complex position. He isn't a complex. What I mean, like he's playing in Russia. He's not playing in freaking Loveland down the street, right? So and it doesn't sound like he's coming to Loveland down the street. So you're going to have a plan, and it sounds like they're going to keep path of whatever they've been doing right now and have a plan to develop him.
Look, as far as the Avs draft strategy is concerned, it's not that much of a reach to talk me into Nabokov at 38 and how they set that up. Where things start to really branch out from the norm for me is the Avs move into the third round. They end up taking William Zellers out of Shattuck, a guy that most lists had ranked in the fourth round or later. And part of me gets it. There's some upside swing there. You see a guy with talent at that level. Of course, you're always going to have the questions of what does it look like against better competition. It's a guy that leaves me concerned because we've seen the Avs take these type of guys before in this range, and they've really failed to really get anything out of these types of picks historically.
He reminds me a lot of Tyler Weiss.
Yep.
Just Tyler Weiss.
Oh, yeah.
Small guy who just could not add weight. He could never bulk up to where he needed to be.
Yep.
Good skater, good playmaking, a lot of, good hands. Like, he was a talented player, but he just could not get big enough to play the game they needed to.
Yep.
And I have it's the same concerns with Zellers.
The other concern being he's currently injured, so we won't get to see him at Dev Camp, which we might talk about that roster a little bit either today or tomorrow.
I think he'll be there, but you won't see him on the ice.
He'll be there, but he won't skate, which is, on a personal note for us, sucks.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys I was really excited to see at Dev Camp.
Yeah, he was one of their certainly the most dynamic player that they drafted yesterday. So
Yeah.
not being able to see him is like, all right, that sucks.
It's
That was a sick team at Shad a couple years ago, though.
they're sick every year.
Eiserman,
Yeah.
Celebrini, him. I mean, freaking frack, they were sick.
It's just the Shattuck way.
They always have some sick players. There's no doubt about that. For Zellers in particular, I really just struggle with taking kids out of prep school, and when you look at his path, who he's not even jumping to NCAA next year, he's going to do a year in the USHL first. You're talking about, at minimum, a guy that's 4 years away from being a professional hockey player, let alone in the NHL. And while that might be okay for a goalie, you're starting to get into a pretty long path for a forward at that point.
Yep, it's gonna take a while.
Yep.
Patience.
If it works out, they'll be looking real smart.
Yeah, because it's tough with the Avs' current window to imagine the fit much sooner with players
Yeah.
already. Wow, I'm blanking on his name. He came over at the end of last year, played wing in a couple games in the playoffs. Kovalenko. Thank you so much.
Evan, sorry.
Sorry, Evan.
We've all seen a couple hundred names trying to dive through draft guides in the last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
so names are just not a thing for us. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got some players they're trying to graduate that they've invested some opportunity, I'll say. Because even outside of the Kovalenkos, they still dipped into the college free agency pool and players like Poland
Yep.
and Pavel and
Guys like Foodie are still
Foodie
around.
still
yeah.
exists. Steinberg's in there too, and he feels like he's a little bit a ways, but he's at least a little ahead in his track in coming over. Now he's with the Eagles.
Yep.
That I feel like time is something that the Avs can afford to spare with these prospects, and it's been tough because with the crop of prospects before them, like Kaut and Bowers, it felt like, okay, they have time, but when is it going to happen? Like, they're in year 3 now, full year pro, and they haven't made the jump. So
Yeah.
I want to be cautious in how I talk about, the Avs can afford to take some time, as long as they're counting on that with a player like Zellers, which it seems
Sure.
like they have to, because the path to the NHL would otherwise be pretty tricky for him.
Yeah, for sure.
If he can become a better equipped NHL player at the end of the 3 to 4 year out track that we're looking at, then it makes a little more sense than a player who's vying for the NHL in 2 years, but there just isn't a spot for him.
I agree with that for sure. It's being frank about it. I don't know that I trust the Avalanche to get him where he needs to go on that long of a timeline. The Avs have rarely found success with players that need those longer timelines to make it to the NHL.
Like Alex Bocage.
Case in point. Eric, you're a prep school kid. What do you think of it?
I loved it. Again, on the flip side, the only reason I played, again, somebody's going to write down, besides my dad paying the coach for sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Don't volunteer.
That's okay. But you know what? I was raised through this stuff. It's all good. It's fine. No, on a serious note, only reason I played is because I did play prep school hockey. It gave me time to mature and to develop, and that's why I always say that. Like, for me, it's so important. Like, God, guy he got a late birthday. He doesn't get drafted at 17, and then obviously turns 18. You're like, oh, it's his second draft year. Not AJ, not me, everyone. Like, oh, it's like you're old, and it's like, oh my God, you're not. You're just starting. And some guys.
We're about to talk about this with Jake Fisher.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, it's and that's why, again, on a same type of, Cale Makar coming back for. I don't mind people taking their time, because it takes time to become what you will be in the NHL. You know what I mean? Macklin Celebrini, Again, it's not because I want to kick Megan's ass with DU and BU. I want Macklin to go back to BU. I'm just saying, like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Maybe he'll fare better the second time around, huh?
It's fine. There's nothing wrong with A, dominating, B, leading. I got no problem with that. Now, if you get 500 points in 40 games, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? It's a little, I'm using a stupid number, but. Yeah, but what do you have to prove? Well, you can win. You can go show that you can win. There's a way to win. You'll learn in losing. We all know that. So for me, there's time, and not everyone is freaking Connor Bedard that can play right away. Not everyone is, McDavid but unfortunately, that's what we look at. But you're looking at not the norm. You got to look at the norm. You know what I mean? Like, where'd they come from?
Well, and with Zellers, he's going to a good program at North Dakota.
Yep.
One common thread of all the college kids that they take this year, they're all going to good programs. True. There's not one of them that you're looking at going, oh, God, are you serious? You're going to Wisconsin? Like, come on.
They got one guy going to Uno.
Yeah, but he's different. He's different, but because he's a goaltender, he needs to play.
Totally.
And that's the whole thing.
It's
with
a
him.
different conversation for sure.
Oh, I think that's in
We'll talk about that in a sec.
No,
but
even that. Yeah, I like that one too.
When it comes to Zellers, though, his path is he has to be a very good offensive player. And in order for him to learn how to be the all-around offensive player he's going to need to be, he's got to bulk up. That's going to take time.
That's it.
It is going to take time. And the argument could easily be made that they could have picked somebody else that is a little bit, has a better body for this, similar skill set that you feel more comfortable with, but they didn't. This is the kid that they took, and at least there's no rush. The Avalanche are not in a rush with this, and they can't be in a rush with this draft class.
Yep,
because
that's definitely
this is a 7-year draft class. This is we didn't know it at the time, but it was only just beginning with Zellers.
Yep,
with we'll see you in college hockey in 2 years.
Yep, a lot of patience in this draft for sure for the Avs. If you're looking to bulk up on your fantasy gaming, make sure you get with Underdog Fantasy. They got a site-wide promo going on right now. You can go get in on UFC action for a ton of great deals. When you play Underdog Fantasy Pick'em, all you have to do is choose an athlete of pretty much any sport under the sun. They have a statistic, higher or lower. That's it. That's all. You think you know sports? Go pick an athlete. Go pick a statistic, higher or lower. Win yourself some fantasy. Hockey, baseball, football, basketball, Olympics, fighting. I don't know if they have the slap fighting on there that we got to watch in Vegas, but
that was an experience.
I still can't believe that exists.
It's something, let me tell you. Of course, with Underdog Fantasy, you have tons of other options like classic fantasy drafts too, and a ton of other stuff available in 30-plus states, including California, Texas, and even Canada. So go get with Underdog today. Get in on their promos and airdrops and specials and giveaways. All sorts of things that you can get on with Underdog, including using the DNVR code when you sign up to get your special pick plus first-time deposit offer of up to $250 in bonus cash. That's code DNVR over at Underdog Fantasy. You can scan that QR code on screen to get the link today to get all signed up. Of course, you must be 18 or older, present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-522-4700 or visit npcgambling.org. And then when you make yourself a little bit of money, it might be a great time to go out and get to Infinity Park in Glendale and have a great time out there at Infinity Park. In fact,
why'd you say it like Tony the Tiger?
Great
time.
I don't know. I didn't even eat Frosted Flakes as a kid, so you can go out to Glendale. You don't even really need any money. You can get in totally for free for some of their events. On July 2nd at Infinity Park, they're having their July 4th celebration, fireworks, as well as a screening of the movie Independence Day at 7 p.m.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
The movie holds up.
It does. It's pretty good. Not too bad. You can get out there. Main event, gates open at 6:30 p.m., so be sure to arrive early to secure your spot. You can sit pretty much anywhere on the lawn. Get out there, enjoy yourself, and then the fireworks follow up the movie at 9:30 p.m. So you can have a great time there with your family. You can bring your kids. You can hang out just to go have a good time, have a great little picnic out there while enjoying yourself for the 4th of July. Capacity is limited. Only 4,000 people can sit in on the event, so make sure you get yourself in there before they fill up over at Infinity Park. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. You guys kind of already alluded to their 4th-round pick, Jake Fisher, one of a couple of kids they drafted that is heading to DU. Mm-hmm. Fisher is an interesting one. He had a pretty solid year in Fargo.
He's really good for the Force, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, he took on a lot of their heavy matchups. He's already a pretty polished defensive center. Mm-hmm. We had Siebes on the show not that long ago. This kid's coming for his job, so
watch out.
Yeah, gotta watch out.
Whoa.
Gotta watch out, Siebes.
Whoa.
But what do you like about Fisher? And I think we're gonna have basically an identical conversation when we get to Max Curran, because they're like very similar players, except Fisher is a goal scorer. He's got a really good shot. He's the goal scorer. Curran's a playmaker. Can't have it all.
Just stick them together.
Yeah.
Welcome
exactly.
to DU.
If you mash them together, you would have a very good potential for a second-line center who's great defensively.
Yeah.
But with Fisher, good size, good physicality, polished defensive game, puts in the effort, has good habits already, and that is the trait that is prevalent across every one of the skaters that they drafted, except for the last kid, who I know nothing about, and Zellers. The habits that they have, that a lot of these skaters have, you can see that what they really targeted, starting with this pick in particular, is translatable skills.
Yep.
A guy that you can say, okay, we are not getting an all-star out of this. He's not going to go to an awards show. He's not going to, if he wants to, I guess he could, but he's not going to be given one. He's not.
He might get a national title.
Oh my God!
Fair
it's
enough.
on. Hey,
Fair enough.
Whoa! Slow down.
with Siebes.
True, but still. I have a favorite son, not him. Kidding.
With Fisher, it's the Avs. I went and looked it up this morning, and I was shocked, but also not shocked to find that the Avs have not developed. They have not drafted and developed a depth center who played for a decent amount of time in the NHL. The last one was Cody McCormick.
Jesus.
Who was drafted in 2001.
Cody Mack.
This fucker down here was still playing.
Oh, I might have been in a training camp with Cody. I was, yeah.
Like,
okay, can I stop you? Can I stop you?
Yeah, of course.
That's what I was saying earlier. I think they definitely had a plan on this draft. It was goalies and it was depth guys, like exactly what you're saying, you know.
And here's where
but it's not sexy.
No,
it is not sexy, and this is where I'm split on this plan. On the one hand, drafting a guy like this, where if you project him out, he probably ends up being your 3C, makes a ton of sense for Colorado organizationally. One, when he's ready, McKinnon's going to still be here. The 2C position, it might not be Casey Middlestat, but when you look at what the Avs have done historically, they weren't willing to wait for Alex Newhook to figure it out and figure out that 2C spot. So it's pretty likely that they'll go out and solve that 2C spot elsewhere, and then you have a prospect that can come in and fill that 3C or 4C position for you. My problem being what AJ just said. How many dudes have we watched seemingly look like they fit a grinder role in the Avs organization at the AHL level that just never really seem to get that opportunity?
God, I got to jump in again. Sorry if I'm cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
You know, because it's falling into place what I was trying to say earlier. And goaltending, they've wasted capital, right? You know, with starting back to Kemper and then, you know, George and, you know.
Grubauer, Kemper, and
I forgot about Grubauer too. Sorry.
Yeah.
So at some point, now look at the fourth line center. Just go back a couple years. This year, give and take, Trennan. You know, I know he wasn't a center, but that was, you know, last year, Lars Eller
was supposed to be
I'm
a
just
depth
saying,
guy.
I know.
Yeah.
And then the year before with the cup is Sturm.
Yep.
I'm just saying. So now you're
Well, before
developing
that,
a pattern.
They had the cap space before that to go and give extra money to Pierre-Edouard Bellemare.
Yeah.
And when they ran out of that space, that cap space,
Yeah.
because the rest of their roster got more expensive, they had to start trying to use draft picks to fill that spot.
And now that's why I'm saying, so there's a
ELC
little
on it.
pattern there. And, like with this pick, like you said, develop them. And then, but I'll tell you one thing, though. It's not just the organization, because if the organization decides we're going to develop this guy into a third, fourth line center, a depth center, we had a guest on the show 3 days ago, maybe. It was you, I believe. Jay, who did Pando? Was it the
We
two
both
of you?
did.
Okay.
We did.
Jay Pandolfo is a freaking Hobie Baker finalist. He's a freaking one of the all-time greats at BU. What does he do? Figures it out. Goes to freaking New Jersey Devils. Plays there a dozen years. Has a couple cups. Why? He scored freaking 5 goals a year, whatever it was. And I'm bashing Pando for his production here. But no, he figured it out. This is what they need me for. This is what this team needs. And I'm going to figure out a way to stay and have longevity in this league. And I know I got a gazillion points in college, but at the NHL, I won't. So you have to know what you are.
Rennie Corbet.
Corby, I was going to say my buddy, my brother-in-law, Yeller. Stefan Yell's a 100-point
That's
guy
another
in
guy.
freaking OHL. Got in the NHL, scored 5 to 10 goals a year, whatever. But they're essential guys in a piece of the puzzle. But it's on the kid, too. Is Fisher that kid? I don't know. Do the Avs do the work a little bit? Were they gonna? Did they find out a little bit more about him before taking him? For sure. And then you're like, okay, he's gonna be that guy. Because if you think you're going in the NHL to be Sidney Crosby, you won't make it. I haven't seen this guy play enough, Fisher, to tell you that he won't play in the NHL. But I can tell you, he won't be Sidney Crosby.
No, I can tell you that he's going to be your guy.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I know you well enough to know you're gonna watch this kid and you're gonna be all about it.
And the onus is on the kid to say, okay, this is what I'm gonna be. And I always tell you guys, and God, I hate to use the name like Olofsson, it's an identity crisis. If you have an identity crisis, like you don't know what you are.
The guy
in
who
this
plays
league,
a top 6 game that needs to play a bottom 6 game to make the NHL.
It's hard to figure out, and it's so. And guess what? Let me tell you, and I'm not bashing any kids. If it was that easy, everybody would have had a career in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's not easy. So I'm not. I don't want people to think that what I'm saying is that I'm downplaying it. It's so easy. It's not. It's not. But you got to be willing to do it. It's got to click right here that you're gonna go and do it. When you do it, you have a career.
Yeah.
I know we're going long. We haven't even played the CMAC interview, so I'll
we
keep
have
it
no
short.
rules today. We can do what we want. Yeah.
There's
It
a
is true.
shared value system with the type of player that DU wants in their program and the type of player that the Avs value.
He
I
probably
think-
turned down. You know what? BU probably turned him down. That he decided to go to DU. It's
I
fine.
would say the
Turn his
same
mic
for
off.
BU. No, I think there's a shared value system. There's a lot of college invites on this camp list from good programs. I obviously have this bias. What I'm saying here is it's not just that the Avs are pulling from this same well because it's convenient. There's a shared value system in the type of player that can impact a team, help them win a national title, and can come to a dev camp and make an impression like a Logan O'Connor. And so I think that
Jason Poland.
I loved what he did with Western Michigan. So that's a program that I also really admire. So all I'm saying is there is a type of player they're looking for. This is a player that helped his team to a Clark Cup last year. There's a reason that they're interested in him. And it's not just he's down the street and it's convenient, though I'm sure that helps. I'm sure it's added bonus. But there's a shared value system in the type of player they're looking for, the character that they have.
Look, the Pile Pipeline is becoming a real thing
There's a marriage.
because Will Butcher led into kind of Logan O'Connor, which led into Sean Barons, which now leads into 2 new DU kids. And there are 5 Pios at Dev Camp that are going to be at Dev Camp this week. 5 Pios.
Yep.
Where are your Terriers at, huh?
Well, it's normal as 5 Piles. They beat the best team in college hockey, the Boston University Terriers. So that's why.
Look, I think up to this point in the draft, you could make a semblance of sense for the Avs not going off the rails on their own strategy as opposed to other teams. And then you get into the 5th round, and the Avs go goalie. I'm gonna mess up his first name. I apologize. Lauka? Cloutier?
I genuinely don't know.
Might be Luca.
Luca, it's a weird way of pronouncing it. He's from Sherbrooke, right? But he's from Sherbrooke, obviously taking the U.S. path. But
Yeah.
he's Luca. But again, it's Luc. I would think more, but the parents. I mean, I'm not bashing his name. I'm saying it's a rare name even in French.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
And then Ivan Yunin as the second goalie they take.
Can I speed run these two really quick?
Do it.
Just so we can kind of.
Yeah.
he's supposed to be pretty good.
They're
Cloutier.
goalies. We'll see.
Yep.
With Cloutier, he was on the all-rookie team for the USHL this year. He's the Chicago Seal starter next season. He will be going to University of Nebraska at Omaha in 2 years. He's got a net.
Yep.
We've seen the other part of the equation that the Avs changed with their goaltending this year is that these guys have jobs,
No
clear-cut
more
jobs.
Zigalov nonsense.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because it wasn't just Zhigalov, but and some of this was injury related. But
sure.
Back in the day, Maximilian Pipok and Shmuel Shmakov
Both struggled to find nets.
could not find jobs,
It's hard.
and that is a wasted pick immediately if a goaltender doesn't have a job.
Yep.
This kid at least has a place that he will play, and he will be going to a college. He has a place to play.
Yep.
So that's great. We don't really. There's not a ton out there about him. We will see.
Yep.
I wasn't trying to make fun of him when I put question marks for his strengths
Same
and
is
weaknesses.
kind of true.
Oh,
of
they're-
I just don't know.
Freaking young.
Which one of
They're
you is
young.
talking smack about UNO? I think that's a good program too.
It's a fine program.
Rudo.
It's just not on the level of a DU or a BU.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, but when you're a
you look at-
goalie, you need a net.
Exactly. But when you look at Megan, when you look at all the other college kids that they drafted, Michigan, DU,
Nodak.
yeah.
Nodak, like come
Premier
on.
programs.
Uno
compared to
is just not on that level.
Yeah.
I'll give you
But
that.
it's a job, and that we'll see. I don't know enough about him.
Same.
There's so little
He's a
about him out
kid.
there about goalies. With Ivan Yunin, this is your dark horse of the entire draft of this entire class. He is your lotto ticket. He is the guy that you have to
barely
be.
played this year.
So he barely played. He has 15 MHL games under his belt. 15 in 2 years, and he just got drafted in the 5th round.
130th or
Yeah,
something.
and his thing is he's playing in an organization that does a really good job of developing goaltenders, but they don't play goalies really young like that. No 16, 17-year-old guys are really getting in. He is at the moment slated to be the MHL full-time starter, the number one guy. So again, has a job. There's a net. But talent-wise, goalie people love him.
Yep.
And they think that 1 year from now, he could jump up a bunch of spots in the rankings in this goaltender class. He's your diamond in the rough. Cool. I'm good with this one. Goaltenders.
Goalies.
I think that covers that enough. Two guys we'll definitely see more of over the next 3 years and see where things are actually at. But, okay. Next up, I think probably two guys, maybe even three guys in a row here that we'd really like to talk about a little bit. First being the Avs' third fifth-round pick of this draft in Max Curran coming out of Tri-Cities.
Best card. I love this card. We had fun with this one.
The wrong Max.
Yeah. Because this is when we started hardcore campaigning for them to take Max.
Yeah.
Your Max.
Max.
And because we wanted another goaltender, and we were like, okay, take Max. And then they took a Max. It was just the wrong one.
Only played 40 games this year, but pretty easy to project as a strong playmaker.
So was finding his stride in the WHL, got hurt.
Yep.
And missed the rest of the season. Came back for U18s and just wasn't great.
Yep.
So did not have that recency bias of this guy's really good. Showed a lot of good things. A lot of the same conversation about Fisher applies to Curran, except Curran is a much better playmaker, much better hands. Both have skating problems, but both are good defensively. They're physical. They have good habits. They take care of their own end, and they're both big-bodied centers. They are centers. They are guys who, if they're going to make it to the league, it's going to be on the back of
Being
their
a center,
ability
yeah.
to play in their own zone in the middle of the ice.
Yep.
And my point with maturing and everything, kid's 17 years old. 6'3". You know what that tells me? just growing into his body. Like he's a kid, 17 years old.
Yep.
You know, so what that kid is going to be at 22, it's not what you're seeing today. You know what I mean? Like, because he's going to learn to use his body. He's going to learn to fill out his body. He's going to learn to play like with size, and where, even though that's part of his game now,
Yeah.
he can develop into it. Like I said to you, what are you? You know what I mean? If that's what I'm a guy that's using his size, then go and be perfect at it.
When you see a kid that is 6'3", 170 or whatever it is, and you go, man, that 170 he's not gonna be that number in a couple of years.
Not a
No.
chance. You know what I mean? Like
Most
not
of the
a
time.
chance.
You want to see what his frame looks like and say,
Of
all right,
course.
is he gonna max out at 175, 180, or is he gonna get to the
Like 200,
190,
yeah.
195, where you're like, this guy turned into a bull?
Yep.
Because if Curran can fill out and get into the 195 range, for my money, the Avs have a dude.
And when we
I think he's a dude.
We always say, like, I always tell you guys, getting drafted, yeah, great, hoo-ha, yeah, it's great, it's awesome for the grandparents and the parents, and, you know, and it's special for the kid, you know what I mean? But it's special for the families. Tony talked about that, right? But the work is just starting.
Yeah.
You haven't started yet, you know what I mean? Like, and so great, you know, that's why I say, and this is the harsh me talking now. Great, and they're going to learn that in all the development camps this week around the league, you know. Great, yeah, you got drafted. All right, nobody gives a shit anymore. Now it's what do you do now to bring you to what you're going to be?
Yep.
Do you want to do it? The answer is yes, but are you about it? Like we talk about, the Avs are about winning. Like, are you about it? You can say you want to do it, then go show us you want to do it.
Yeah.
So this is a kid that will fill out, that will put in the work. You know, you're hoping. That's why you drafted him.
Well, and I want to give him some credit. This is a player that has demonstrated future forward thinking to an NHL career in making the decision to come get adjusted to North American ice in juniors early. So that adjustment doesn't have to come later on. And so
That's
this last year of juniors too was his first year making that adjustment. I think it was a strong year that was hampered by injury.
For sure.
And beyond that, then the commitment to his schoolwork came up as a really important thing in his interview. And so he was taking remote classes this last year and straddling pretty rigorous coursework because he doesn't want, he wants to be a well-rounded person and not just a well-rounded player. The one that speaks 3 languages we were talking about in the car.
Yep.
He seems like a really impressive young man. And so I think that the types of decisions he's made for his future at such a young age shows a guy who's going to do everything it takes to get there one day.
An interesting comment in the Toyota chat here talking about Foudy getting more looks on the fourth line. I'm not trying to compare Curran to Foudy in the sense that Foudy's a great skater and Curran is not. But if you look at them both as playmaking centers, which I know Foudy's been playing on the wing some, but what you have in Curran is a guy that can play make, but has the body type that makes a lot more sense for a bottom 6 role as compared to a Foudy who's always going to struggle with the physical side of that.
And with Foudy, just using this as a quick comparison here, with Foudy, the question when he was drafted was always, he plays too much on the perimeter.
Yep.
It's still an aspect of his game that it has gotten much better over the last couple of years, his willingness to get into the middle of the ice. This isn't a thing with Curran and Fisher. Both of these guys, middle of the ice guys, they understand you have to play in the middle of the ice. And that's, again, and Megan, I love the point of he comes over here and he's taken his career very seriously. And habits. It's a guy that just seems to get it, and he's good too. Like he's a good player. There's a lot of interesting, intriguing tools here. And where with Foudy, it's always been, is he going to be good enough offensively to be a top 6 player, or is he going to learn to be a good enough checker to be a bottom 6 player? And with Curran, you're saying there's enough skill there that he could be a maybe middle 6 guy if you get he probably should never be under second line.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Could maybe be a 3-4C for you. But he has enough skill that you might be able to dream on the 3C part of it. Whereas a guy like Fisher, you're saying that's going to be a 4C.
Yep.
But with Curran, there's multiple avenues of success here. Mm-hmm. It's not super narrow. With Jean-Luc Foudy and Oscar Olofsson, they're having a hard time for that exact reason right now breaking in, which is why the change in philosophy for how they have approached this draft in particular, I really like, because these are projectable traits. These are guys that can grow into guys that will make your roster. And this is not something that they have done well at the draft in recent years.
True.
Guys,
The last
Jared
10.
Bednar would actually like.
Play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
instead of
Trust
signing
and
Jason
play.
Poland, you go and draft a young
Yeah.
version of him and let him grow up in your system and not be like, okay, well, at 24 years old, you've got 1 year to try and do this for
Right.
us. You know, we're going to draft and he's going to grow and we're going to be able to watch this guy's game develop in front of us for the next couple of years, get into our system, and then grow with us.
We do have to keep it moving here.
Sorry.
6th round pick, the other DU kid they take this time, the only defenseman of the class for them, and Tory Pitner. Megan, I know you had a chance to talk to him. Billed is one of the smartest kids in the class.
It's true. No, we have the interview. We don't have it right now
We
to
do,
play.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we should listen to this guy talk.
I agree.
I
Sure.
think that would be the
Hit
best.
it.
That'll just show it better than I can explain
Hit
it.
it.
It's pretty unbelievable. I mean, it's a great feeling. Colorado's a great organization, and especially down the road from Denver, it's going to be really fun to go to a lot of games and just see the progression in the team and my game to hopefully one day be there. So.
Knowing that you would go to DU, were you maybe kind of hopeful that it would be the Avs?
Yeah, I talked to the Avs a little bit during the year and stayed in contact with some of their scouts. So every time they picked, I was kind of on the edge of my seat, but happy to be here and really excited.
What are the strengths of your game?
I'd say that my defending is probably my biggest strength. I think that I can use my brain and really just bait other players into plays that they don't want to make, and then close out and really take away time and space, and ultimately just be a prick to play against. I don't know if I can say that on this, but I think that I can defend really well. I say my player comparable is John Marino, and so his ability to play against those top line guys and shut them down every night. I mean, you just saw him get traded, so obviously a really valuable piece in the NHL, and he was a 6th round pick too. So really excited to hopefully continue that development path over at DU to round out all the other areas of my game to be able to play in the NHL.
What does make Denver such a good choice for you for college?
Yeah, I'd say obviously the coaching staff, first of all. DC is an unbelievable coach, and then just the proven track record that they have at developing NHL defensemen. Like being there every day, like you see all the guys that come back and they want to be at DU, and all the guys that they've sent to the NHL, they still come back to train there, train with Matt Shaw, the strength coach, skate on the ice. Like everyone there, it's kind of a brotherhood, and it's a great system for everyone to go through if they want to get to the NHL.
Have you had a chance to meet Jake Fisher?
I'm actually roommates with Fish at DU. We moved in on Sunday and we're roommates, so it's kind of cool that we both got picked here. So
Have you talked to him since? I mean, I guess I didn't.
I gotta be honest, I put my phone down after round 3 and kind of tried not to go on it, but yeah, no, we'll definitely talk. I'll see Fish Sunday when I land. We probably have some studying to do for our geography class, but no, it'll be good. I know he was really excited. I'm really excited too, so yeah.
Have you ever been to an Avs game?
I have not, no, but I heard that the DU guys go all the time, especially with it being right downtown. So really looking forward to getting out there and seeing Ball Arena live. Like I've driven past it a few times, but just heading back to campus or whatnot. But I'll be really excited to get inside and see what it's like.
How did Youngstown help you develop to get to this point? And
Yeah.
What was your 2 years like there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously it was great my first year. Getting to experience winning a Clark Cup championship there was super cool for me, and it was a great learning experience being able to be around great leaders like Shane LeChance and Chase Patilla, who got picked earlier today. So being able to be around those kind of guys was awesome for me. And then my second year, kind of taking a step into a bigger role with the team, talking with Andy Contoys a lot about my game, working on different areas that I need to improve, and improving on my strengths too, being hard to play against. So I think that overall they helped me round out my game, and I'm looking forward to keep rounding out that game at DU.
What has been your draft day experience been like here at the Sphere and this
Yeah.
seeing the picks?
Yeah, no, it was long. Woke up early. Couldn't really sleep too much, but woke up, just kind of got a workout in to get moving, have something to do. Then walked over here. I'm staying at a hotel. It's not too far, so walked over, sat down after having some breakfast, and then kind of just watched the draft. So it's been pretty cool, though. I have my family here, so my agent as well, one of my coaches. So it's been really nice to have everyone here supporting me. I say that I love how they're pretty freeing with all their defensemen. Like even down the lineup, you look, Josh Manthan's still getting up in the play, joining as a fourth man. Sam Girard obviously loves to do that. They obviously have great defensemen like Cale Makar and stuff running their power play. Love being really active. I think that that's something that I'm looking to add more to my game too, and so the freedom to do that in Colorado is something I'm really looking forward to, especially at DU as well, having that freedom, finding the middle on a lot of their breakouts, not a lot of off the glass plays or up the wall. They like to really possess the puck, which I'm really looking forward to, being able to hold on to the puck a little bit longer and find some middle support, which I think will ultimately help my game break down the other opponent and just add another element, which will be really fun.
What player have you idolized as you've come up through?
It's kind of been a lot of different ones, but I really wanted to play defense because of Nick Lidstrom. When I was younger, one of my coaches, actually Anze Kopitar's brother, Gasper Kopitar, he was my coach, my defense coach in LA when I played for the Junior Kings when I was younger. And he told me if you want to be a defenseman to watch Nick Lidstrom. So I found some YouTube video, and I think I've watched it like 400 times or something like that. I've watched his NHL 36 like multiple times, like just to get me going, or just to learn things from him, like seeing his routines. And so kind of idolizing him growing up, and then seeing the great person and defenseman he was, it really made me want to be a defenseman and wanted to play hockey even more.
Hey guys, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Look, a defenseman that's incredibly smart and reads the ice really well.
Making the most puzzling face ever.
You were just blown away by the kid. That's all.
It's true. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
We were looking at each other. This kid's going to be in the NHL one day.
He just sees the game too well. He understands and processes the game too well, especially in an organization like the Avs where they require, I don't want to say speed, but a certain pace of play.
Yeah.
You can get to that pace with this as much as you can with the feet.
Who wants to be more excited, you or me? Which one of us wants to go first in this excitement level?
I want you to get excited.
Okay.
Everyone expects me to get excited.
All right. This is exactly what Devon Toews was when he was drafted.
Just a really smart,
Exactly what he was.
willing to engage defensively.
He is the same size. He has the same skill set. He has the same hockey brain. All he has to do is continue to hone that. And he's going to a program that fits. He's going to a program that is going to develop his game. The same way that Toews did the same thing in college hockey. Tory Pitner is going to be in the NHL someday.
Can I be a little bit realistic about that hype really quick?
Yeah.
I love the Devon Toews comparison, but if you get the New York Islanders version of Devon Toews, you hit a home run here.
If you get the
Avs version, it's the best pick in Avalanche history.
If you get the last AHL season of Devon Toews' time as a Sound Tiger version,
Yep.
you're still getting an NHLer because the Islanders took too long to call him up.
True.
Like, he's so smart and he's so good as a defenseman. The way that he gaps up, the way his physicality, the way that he reads the ice, he's a human eraser. The puck comes near him, it stops being near him and goes the other direction. He's not great in transition. He doesn't have very many puck skills. He's a better shooter than he is passer. He's going to have to learn to play under pressure. He's going to have to make the easy read.
Him and every single defenseman in this range of the draft.
But it's he sees the ice really well.
Yep.
And it's the physical tools that have held him back, the lack of size. Because you see the top of the drafted defensemen, it's all the guys that can skate. It's all the guys that are 6'3", the guys that have 30 goals in a season, stuff like that, right? This is the kind of guy, though. He falls every year in the draft, but a really smart, projectable, shutdown third pairing defenseman that's going to play on a PK and is just solid and reliable. This is what Devon Toews was as a prospect. So I'm not saying he's going to turn into Devon Toews in the NHL. That's insane. But it is the same profile of player. You give him time and you just let him go. He's going to be in the NHL.
I love that he opens with the attention he likes to pay to the defensive details, how that is what he views as the strength of his game. Because I think the biggest area of growth for him is on the offensive side of the puck,
Yep.
and there's an interest in that. And I like to hear him talk about how the way that Colorado likes to play is freeing, in his opinion, and he'd like to see the way that Josh Manson was able to lean into that side of his game here in Colorado and get up the ice. And you can tell there's an interest in him doing that, and I think that that's the path that awaits him through DU, is getting more opportunity to lean into the offensive side of his game and continue to iron out the defensive details too. This is where I think Sean Barons grew a lot at DU, because he already had that offensive instinct and is also a really smart player and was able to get stronger defensively. This is already a very smart and strong defensive player. Now he can kind of also, in a freeing way, dabble and lean into the offensive side of his game. I think a more well-rounded player comes out the other end, and I just am so impressed by how smart he is.
Also, his mom posted a picture of him wearing an Avs jersey when he was a kid.
Yeah, you
so
have to find. It's on Twitter.
meant to be
It's
on that one.
So cute.
Yeah, I don't have a good feeling with that one.
Risa Pitner, I think.
No, not Pitner.
No,
Jersey.
No, yeah, I know.
Matt Duchene had one too. You know.
Oh.
Yeah, well,
So did Jonathan Taves.
a lot of kids had Avs jerseys.
Yeah.
It turns out.
When you have multiple golden eras, man,
Yeah.
you're just gonna
Patrick
breed
Kane's
more
my favorite
fans
one,
here.
though.
So
Patrick Kane was a big Avs fan.
Yeah.
during Sakic Forsberg, that's what those guys grew up on, of course. You know, they just did it again. Now it's just all McKinnon and McCars.
That's just what happens when you're a generally successful franchise.
Yeah,
Zuccarello.
we're not going to
Big
see any of
Avs
those. We're not going to see any of these kids wearing Paul Stastny jerseys.
Yeah, there it is.
It's
probably a Paul Stastny jersey.
It might be. It's got the uniprint, so.
Looks
Yeah.
like Ty, my youngest, there on the left.
Yeah, it does.
I do see it.
Yeah.
Do you have a better feeling now?
No, I do. I was only kidding. It was a jab at Maddie there. That's it.
We've already run long, but the Avs do have 2 7th-round picks in this one. Cristian Humpherys and Nikita Prishchepov. When you put an H, a C, and an H together, I'm not going to be able to
It's
say
tough.
his name right. Prishchepov, a guy out of Victoriaville in the Q. He's a junior player, and that's the list of things that I know about him.
He was a point per game player as a 20-year-old in the queue.
Yep.
When he got selected, I was sitting with. I'm going to quiz you guys here. The last Avalanche goaltender picked as high as Nabokov.
Mark Denis.
No, that's
It's
25.
either Spencer Martin.
Phil Suave, 38. Hey,
Wasn't
nice
Pickard?
kid.
Pickard was a second, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
but
He
not,
was,
no,
but he
not-
was in the
above
40s.
38, yeah.
Yeah, he was in the 40s.
Phil, I was with Phil. Phil's now a GM of the Sherbrooke team in the queue there. And then when that kid got picked, I said, you know, he's like, well, yeah, he's a good player, a good offensive player, good hands, and exactly what you're saying there.
Great.
Win a game, and again coming to North America from Russia, and
when he's been here for 3 years.
yeah,
Yep.
So, like, again, a kid that comes across and is taking himself seriously and is trying to make this work. For me, this is a wait and see. He's at Dev Camp. He's going to be here this
Exactly.
week. He's going to be one of our guys to watch. We will
you go.
seriously start to break into Dev Camp stuff on Tuesday after free agency and
Yeah.
everything else is kind of washed out in that cycle. We'll really get into that. But yeah, he's my guy. We'll just see. We'll see.
And then the other one, Cristian Humpherys, a depth guy out of the USN TDP. Look, if you're looking for a late round upside swing, mining the depth of the USN TDP
We'll call Ryan back on him.
is just
Dude.
sensical. Yeah.
Dude, he got picked, and I remember we were sitting there, and I was
yeah.
like, oh, okay, I'm about this. He can't skate. It's a big problem.
Yep.
He plays with no pace. It's like watching a turtle on the ice. No pace. It's not low pace. It's no pace. It's extremely deliberate. He can't skate. That is a huge problem, and I think it's probably why he's here.
Yep.
And when you talk about translatable skills, what do you do with the guy that has that kind of a pacing issue, but he's not big and strong and doesn't
Can't
have the
just
kind
park
of
him in front of the net.
and he
yeah.
when he doesn't have the kind of puck protection, like Nikita Kucherov plays at a deliberate pace too.
Yep.
But he's so good with the puck on his stick that he
Who's the
makes
guy
it
you
work.
like in Nashville that I like that can't skate?
Which one?
Give me names. He's making like $4 million a year now. Like, kind of went through the ranks.
I'm drawing a total blank on this.
Go, keep going. I'll find them.
But what you love about Humpherys and why I don't care about his problems here, he's the 215th pick.
Yep.
And a genuine, really, really good playmaker. Sees the ice really well. Great hands. Great passing ability. Serious offensive upside. Serious offensive upside. If he can sort out how to play, if he can change his game and adapt it to a little bit more of a pro style and pick it up a little bit here, he could be a top 6 player. A top 6 player. I mean, more like a second line guy. But you're talking about a second line playmaking wing kind of upside here. He should not have lasted this long. But he's going to have to change his game and adapt it, because the way that he's going right now, it won't fly. It will not fly.
The skating has to get to a passable level.
Yeah.
Like, it can't just be non-existent.
Just as a raw tool, it's got to get better.
Yeah.
But the way he plays the game is going to have to get better.
Yep.
He's not going to be a center. He's purely a wing. He's going to have to learn the wing life. But he's a guy, again, habits. He plays hard. Not going to confuse him with Teddy Stiga, but he plays hard. He puts the work in. He's got good effort. I would actually love to have Ryan come back on the show and talk about him.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Because
Or at
I'd be
least we
willing to
can
bet
get we'll get a quote this week on him, like, or we'll talk to him.
I bet he
Even if we can't coordinate, we'll say what what he said. Thomas Novak.
Oh yeah, I do love Tommy Novak. Yeah,
I know he's a center and he's not, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying, like, can't skate.
yeah.
No one's gonna tell me that Novak skates. He can't skate. But you know what I mean? Like, smart with the puck, and like you said,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, not like Toffoli. Toffoli is a guy that plays at a certain pace.
He's the best
and
example.
He's a great goal scorer. Cristian Humpherys isn't going to do that for you, but as a elevates his line, creates for others, because everything that he does is about getting the puck into the middle of the ice. Not a perimeter guy. He will do everything he can to try and get that into the most dangerous scoring areas of the ice, which makes him very effective at what he does. And he's got great hands and vision. It's
Nice.
a good combination of things. He's not a guy that's going to hang out on the outside. He just has to get the skating. He's got to develop something in transition.
Can't be a black hole in that
Yeah.
regard.
You
Certainly
just-
not in
you
the
just-
Avs organization.
In
Yeah.
the modern NHL.
Yeah.
You can't play like that. So he's going to have to get that going. But really, really, for 215th overall, hell yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask Ryan.
Yep. Good. Good.
Yeah.
Should we just go live for another 5 hours to equal our flight delay? Or,
I don't know. What was the most frustrating part of that? Is it that when we finally landed, then they didn't have a crew for us, so we
Yeah.
spent another 25 minutes just sitting there?
Nah, I think getting onto a plane and them telling us it was flight worthy, but not flight worthy enough, was the biggest frustration.
Well, and then she gets on there and she tells us to go get on the train and go across the airport with like some urgency. And then we get there, and the gate agents are screaming at everybody and yelling and all.
This is a
all
plane
kinds of
to
things.
San Francisco.
Exactly. The only one boarding right now is to San Francisco, and we're like, why are we here then?
Yep. It was a weird one.
Total fiasco.
We did
But we
get
got vouchers.
free meal for 6 hours
There's a
of our
flight
time.
voucher, too.
Oh, did we get a flight
Yeah.
one too? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
75.
let me burn
big
that.
ones.
wow.
So you get a free carry-on.
You
Damn,
can't use
that's
it
so
for the
funny.
add-ons.
Oh, you can't? Oh,
No.
There you go.
Just the flight. But I mean, and you have to take Frontier again.
Yeah, that's the problem. We did get one super chat here from Flats who says, when should a team trade up or down in the draft? In my opinion, a team should never trade up. I don't think that's ever the right
Sorry.
decision. But,
Disagree,
okay.
but it's limited.
Pretty darn limited.
Like the Avs were about that close to a deal with Chicago at 18 to go get Cole Yzerman. I'm
Sure.
down with that, because it becomes a sliding doors moment in Avalanche history.
Yeah,
if
for
they
sure.
get that deal done and they move up and they take Cole Yzerman, the rest of this draft class is completely different.
That's definitely true.
And they have Cole Yzerman. They have a premier goal scoring prospect for the first time since Mikko.
Yeah, Mikko, probably the last one.
And that obviously would be a little different, and Eric could be really excited because it's a BU guy, and you
But
know,
then, well, you know what? Like, they're, again, people are going to hate me on the chat, but Minnesota. And then I'm going to give a DU kid credit, but whatever. I'm kidding. I think it's a great move to move up to get Zeev, right? You know what I mean? By mini.
Yeah.
It's what was it, one spot they moved?
It was one.
Yeah, it was one spot.
So, and one spot that might define your next 10 years. You know
let
what I
me
mean?
ask you
So-
this, though. What if they didn't move up one spot? Does Philly even take Zeev?
Well, again, but this is a conversation you have with them, and you can either. I don't call that lying. I don't call that lying. If Philly
You told me the story, buddy.
well, I'm just saying I don't call that lying. It's like it's just good order of
It's
business.
just being dishonest. It's not lying.
No, it's not. Like it's like it's
Feels like
none
a
of
lot
their
of
business.
conversations that have happened in my personal life.
No,
lately.
but it's not. You're not supposed to.
It's not lying.
It's not public. No, it's not public knowledge who you're taking, and you don't have to disclose who you're taking until you take the pick. So, but you can genuinely tell them that I'm taking them. Okay, I want them. What is it going to cost me?
Yeah.
And for me, that's just good business. That's not lying. That's not being dishonest. And again, I don't know. But then that's called
negotiation.
luck of the draw. Luck of the draw. So if Philly mentally they weren't going to take them, then awesome. They got an asset, for whatever it is that Minnie was willing to give.
It was a third round pick to
Whatever
drop
on top,
one
yeah.
spot. But to me, I loved Jet Luchenko. But the difference between Zeev and Luchenko, yikes.
Pretty significant.
Yeah, but that's what
Yeah.
what you.
His
I mean, for them, it's
agent is Cutter Gauthier and Ryan Johansson's.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
I don't know
Kurt-
if Philly
Kurt
would have been
over.
interested.
Philly didn't want to touch that.
I that is such a bad reason to do business like that, though.
I doubt that's the sole reason, to be honest
But
with you.
I just you can't operate like that.
I mean, the way it played out, it just seemed like Philly wasn't taking Zeev
Yeah.
no matter what. But
Well, and Briere came out today and was asked about it and said something about, we've got York and we've got Emile Andre and, we've got all these small guys. We weren't going to take another one.
now,
He's like 6 foot.
That's what
One-ish.
That's what everybody else was like. What are you doing, dude? He's not 5'7".
What?
You passed up on Zeev because you have Cam York?
All right, Danny B. We're beefing just for a minute.
Seriously though, and we're definitely beefing because now he's a Minnesota Wild and I'm pissed about it.
And it actually makes so much sense for him to be there.
on the trade downside of it, much like this Philly situation, possibly, if the guy at the top of your list, you're confident will be there at the spot you're trading down to, why not do it? Why not get more assets? Now, in the Avs case, if they had Ilya Nabokov slated as their number one at pick 24, I would have some serious questions about their evaluations on that list.
Yeah.
But
No, I think what they had is a pocket of, like I said,
Yeah.
3 guys, and they were gone. Then there's a pocket of, 10 guys between 24 and 38, and
Yeah.
they're like, but we'd rather go for the goalie at that time. You know what I mean? Because we scared that, again, scared someone might take him, and it sounded by that text message somebody was taking him.
Well, and you can, if Charlie Elick or Igor Chernyshov is there and they take Nabokov over those guys, I'm pissed, like actual pissed. But taking him over Andrew Basha, where you're like,
I still don't like it, but it's less of a gap
yeah,
for sure.
because what's the value? What's the NHL value of Andrew Basha, potential third line wing for you versus
a backup to tandem goalie.
a tandem goaltender? I think the tandem goaltender is the more valuable of the two.
Yeah.
Especially, I love Basha, but if Basha becomes a top line guy, you made the wrong call.
If Basha never goes to the NHL.
Right. And
You made the wrong. You made the right call in that case. Nabokov. If Nabokov ends up becoming the next Ilya Sorokin, who the hell is Andrew Basha?
Exactly. Yep. But that prediction is hard.
But that's the value proposition that they made with that pick.
Yeah.
And I get that part of it. I get it.
Yep. I understand it, even if I don't like it at times.
I'd have been upset if they'd passed up on like a Charlie Elick in that
Yeah.
spot though, because that's one where I'm like, what are we doing here?
You're talking about a top 4D at that
Yeah.
point. It's
Who
two
just-
different things.
Who just fit them really nicely.
yeah.
Dominic Badinka.
We do have to get out of here
Anyway.
for the day, though. We have gone quite along as it is already. But we appreciate y'all. Tomorrow, Free Agent Frenzy. We're going live at 10 a.m. and we'll be live through about just before 2. And then after that, we'll do a recap show of all of the stuff that went down at very least for the Avs. And if they did nothing, we'll just spend the whole day talking about the dev camp roster.
Yeah, a lot of people in here talking about QOs and stuff. We'll spend a lot of the free agent show talking about the QO list.
Correct.
Lots and lots of guys, as always happens, have hit the market.
Yep.
That are very intriguing.
Yep. We'll talk about it all tomorrow. We'll be live all day. So
Every one of those Columbus guys.
it'll be a fun one. Please join us for that tomorrow. For now, though, we are out of here. We appreciate y'all, and we will talk to you on the next one.
We all silly like the mayor.